All right, you always hear people, artists, talking about coffee, cream, and tea. I suggest and recommend to you that there's another layer. I say that there's also butter. You can take the pigment straight from the tube and put it on your palette and play with it there. If you have pan, these are obviously not pan, but they act like pan because I've taken these wells and filled them with the Daniel Smith watercolors, and add them with water to get the coffee, tea, and cream and butter that I am wanting to teach you here. So I'm going to start with butter, and I'm going to work my way down to tea so that you can get a really excellent visual of what exactly that is. I'm trying to think of the best way to lay this palette for you. I think maybe just next to it might be a good idea. All right, so I'm going to use the quinacridone magenta because I have sprayed this, soaked it down already, and it is more than ready to use as this experience. Okay, I'm going to use just a number 4 long round. This is a Princeton Aqua Elite. It is a synthetic, I think a squirrel, a synthetic squirrel, and they are excellent. I can't recommend this enough. Oh, there goes my dog. Somebody showed up. Okay, so thick, like butter. That's coming right out, juicy. And because I have pets, there's always hairs. Kind of drives me crazy. But look how thick this is. Do you see? I mean, it barely moves around. It is so thick. And when you put that onto the paper, it's depending on your paper, it's going to have this thick, skippy technique. You see how that just kind of skips along? Can you see walls, like brick walls or something like that, being used in this really, really thick? Okay. Now, cream is just a little bit more water. Look at how that moves. See, it's still thick. It's not puddling. I'm going to add a little bit more here so there's more to it. There, I brought it right back to butter. I'm going to add this is where it really matters, is how much water each of your brushes use and what it looks like. So this is cream. It's moving a little bit, but it's not puddling. And when you run it across the paper, it can also have that little bit of a dry brush look to it, but it does have a tendency to fill in the spaces in your paper a little bit better. You can manipulate the paint to move around like so. Now, you want to get to the coffee. Coffee is a little bit more water. You can see how now it's moving around in there a little bit better. I think it can even handle a little bit more water. There we go. And that is still thick and it's holding together, but it's got quite a bit of movement. And this is coffee. If you use the belly of the brush, you'll get much more skipping. Okay, that almost, it is the dry brush effect right there. But until the water runs out of the brush, it'll be nice and juicy. And then we're going to take this to tea. Tea is what we did the gradients with. Very much, very wet, and it will be very translucent. And something I want you to take note of when you're looking at this is that they kind of look like different colors. Isn't that interesting? it gives you, which is the other thing I love about watercolor. Oh my God. It gives you all these different variables in color by just how much water you add to the paint. Look how much darker this one is. It's almost a brick color. Can you believe that is that? That and that are the exact same color? See how it gets a little lighter, and then really bright. I'm sure that if you think about this, think of all the different colors and whatnot that are an opportunity out there. What could these different techniques be used for? Leaves, like full blown tree leaves, you know, individual leaves, the bark on a tree, grass, wood, you know, like on the side of a barn, texture for animal hair, and, you know, highlights and lowlights. I mean, it's endless. And as these four colors show up differently, there's everything in between, as you saw with the gradients, to utilize in your painting. Watercolor is just the best. I'm in love. Okay, now I'm going to show you the dry brushing technique. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to have to move my palette to this side. I'm a righty. And the big deal about dry brushing is that you actually use the side and the belly of the brush. And the technique comes down to making sure there's not too much, not too little water in your brush. So I'm using just some purple up in the palette. And right now I'm at the tea consistency. Okay. And I'm using the quinacridone purple. And I'm going to try dry brushing with the tea consistency. Okay. Very, very wet. I'll just show it to you. Very, very wet. And it can be done because this is a very small brush. But now if I were to use that exact same technique with a brush that holds a good amount of water, even if you try to get rid of it, let's see how that works. Again, this is the tea wetness. Look at that. You see the difference there? Now you're going to end up with these wet spots at the top because I angled the brush down. Now I'm going to do the same technique, and I'm going to use coffee. I'm going to just use this palette. I think this is easier than using this big palette. I think this is going to be an easier way because of the way I need to load my brush. Okay, so that's more like the coffee. Using the side of the brush with my sable brush. My brush, a lot of people will hold it even on its side like a so. But you also struggle with the first stroke being too wet. Now, if I go to cream and tap out the moisture in my brush, tapping over to the side, and go like a so, off to the side. See how that makes it a very fine brush? Okay, I'm going to use my synthetic brush. Again, I'm going to the cream consistency. My brush is fairly dry. I've tapped out the moisture on the brush. And then I'm going to run it along the side there. See how it gives a consistent texture? Where in the beginning with tea, coffee, cream comes out to the perfect consistency. So you really just want to have some fun and play with this. See what type of brushes work the best for you and where your struggles and your wins can come from. I will continue to do these tutorials to help you to learn and to grow on your watercolor journey. I know these were the things I struggled with the most, and hopefully it's a benefit to you. I love you all very much. Mwah! And I'll talk to you real soon.